So, hey, welcome to the show. Here we are on the side of the road on the coast of Maine, looking at a little cape that somehow in the recent history has gotten a shed dormer on the front. Let's get up and take a closer look. Looks like some local stone used as some stairs. Tiny little chimney. Something's happened there. And spoiler alert, the place was probably built in the 1780s. It's got a doorway. This looks like it was replaced in the 1840s, maybe 1845. Some replacement windows. You can tell because the windowsills are very thin. And a shed dormer on the front. I wonder when they put that on. We'll check it out inside. All right. Let's go around. Hopefully the sun won't be too much of a problem. Gable end. Someone's changed one window into two, kept one in its place, and added another. Looks like some sort of a bathroom shed put on in the 80s, and an old kitchenelle behind that. Kind of cute. I am a sucker for old weathered wood shingles. I just love the texture and the color. A little bit of moisture problems here on the side of the kitchenelle, and some back of the house shingle. Nothing like back of the house shingles in the state of Maine. Lovely. Oh, volunteer garden. I just love these old homey touches. The little stone at the edge of the brick steps. There's a brick walkway. Another stone inserted here. A little teeny stone wall making a little bit of a well for the back of the kitchenelle. Pretty nice. Some sort of entry shed happened. And because it's got no pitch at all, it has a flat copper roof, which I'm sure has to get shoveled all winter long. And some old looking sash. I think there's one just looking at this window and the siding next to it. Looks like this was all done in the 20s. New window frames, sills. Sort of can tell because of the wire nails, the round nail head. If it was earlier than that, it would be square. An old wooden gutter buried up there in the cornice. Cool. Inside that little flat roof shed is an old window. And this, I don't know if you can see it really well or not, but this has striations in the glass. This glass was handmade in a cylinder form. Pretty cool. Look at this bubble here. Very cool. Anyway, this is old siding. It has texture on it from being weathered. Been painted with modern paint. But it has square nail heads in it. Very cool. Well, kitchen. This is kind of a little bit 1920s. It's whole. I mean, there's not much, but it's whole. Kind of a modern sink. Doesn't look quite right here. Should be something soapstone. A couple little cabinets. This is a cute little use of a kitchenelle. And an old window here. Hopefully this comes through in the video, but here you can see the striations in the glass are curved. So this came from a hand-blown, what we call crown glass. Look at that right there. So this glass is from the time of the Revolution. Very cool. Tiny little bathroom off to the side over in there. No point in going and looking, it's there. This has a built-in cupboard. Looks like it showed up in the 1880s. And a funny angle to the wall next to what was once the chimney. Something's happened with the chimneys. It used to be fireplaces. They've been changed to stove ports. The core of the chimney is still there, and down in the basement the chimney base is still there. Here they filled in what was the hearth with cement. Expedients. A little boarding room Not an awful lot of light in here, and some linoleum that's not very good looking, at least to my eye. But we can see poking out right here some very old weathered flooring boards. They look to be original to the house, which would, at the moment, I'm thinking it's probably around 1780. And we've got a kind of a funny newer door in this doorway. This doorway is where the fireplace was back when this was a kitchen. And they've snuck this little staircase in to get upstairs. I figure this was done in the 20s. It's a similar door pattern to that door in that cupboard. Could be that that was done in the 20s also. Anyway, here on the front of the house, we've got no longer quite hanging in its opening. Here we've got a door that's absolutely dead center in 1785 for its pattern. This has a feather edge or a beveled edge with a shoulder, but instead of a ovalo, instead of a thumbnail, it's got an ovalo molding. There we go. Tiny little ovalo. That same ovalo repeated up here in the beam casing and on the corner post casing. So this room was probably all done at one time. Windows have been changed. Windows over there have been changed. Cabinet over there has been changed. There's a lot gone on. The ceiling, get a kick out of it. It's kind of a surface of the moon sort of thing, but all in all, in pretty darn good shape. One little spot there that's failing. The rest of it's looking pretty good. In this room, we've got a early pine floor. It looks to be the original pine floor. It's got a couple of features that sort of make me think it's an original floor. Someone's taken the edge of this board, probably when they were installing this, and chopped out a flaw in the edge of that board and did a patch. Once it was painted, it probably all looked fine in uniform. The flooring is predominantly nailed with 2 nails on each board. This one looks like it's picked up an extra nail there. Back in the day, it was not uncommon to just nail the edges of boards rather than the middles. This is the front hall. Once upon a time, this was wallpapered, but before that, it was probably all painted. There could even be some newsprint down at the bottom of this. But this is pretty cool stuff. This is a board wall. There's no plaster, there's no studs, it's just the boards nailed to that hewn beam at the top and nailed to a beam on the floor behind the heating unit. As is this wall, which has a piece of wood nailed to the edge, goes all the way to the ceiling because it's binding this board right here to this board serving as the header. Beautiful, bold, quirked bead. Bring me over to here with my hand. Okay, here we go. A beautiful, bold, quirked bead on the corner, and the 2 quirked beads mitered together. Very workmanlike. Those boards were probably nailed and clench nailed through. I'll show you a little bit of that. This is a little hatch door. You can see the line of the attic stair. This is a little hatch door that was put in. I think it's been cut down because there's some funky stuff going on here. But look at this nail right here. See this nail? This is a handmade nail and flattened to make a trim nail out of it. Here's another one there. And they were run through and clenched over on this side, there and there, to cleat this board and this board together to make it into a door. Pretty cool. Door casing on this side. This was the kitchen, so it was simple. This was the dining room side, and it was a little bit more involved, with a little OG band running around, mitered in the corners, quirked bead struck, mitered at the joint. A little bit of leakage from the attic, don't know why. Another OG band. Notice how this OG band over here only has a field of about half, maybe 5/8 of an inch. And on this side, they made a larger one so that it'd go all the way to the wall. Save them having to try to fill in 1.5 inches of plaster. Cool. Baseboard. Baseboard sticks out further than the wall surface or the band, so they just did a pretty quick bevel to make it work out. Here in the dining room, we've got a little bit of another one of those ovalo and raised panel doors. Very stylish. Bennington lock set and a box lock. Boy, it's got it all. That showed up probably the 1840s. And a little bit of a problem with the floor. We could probably fix that. Same kind of solution to the baseboard that we saw in the hall. Same carpenter, I'm sure. Now notice here that on one side of the door was an OG, and here we've got a beaded ovalo. This is a beautiful federal molding, and nicely mitered all the way around, and the door jams with beautiful quirked bead. This is lovely stuff. Now here they managed to get the whole thing to work out. Oh look, look what's here. Underneath this anaglypta is some wood. This has got a wooden wainscot right across there. Wonder if we'll see any more over on this side. All we see here is the wallpaper that's behind it. That's got a wooden wainscot. Very cool. And it repeats over here. Very interesting. There's something to be had. Something's happening in there. And then a very, very odd fireplace mantelpiece. This fireplace had a much larger hearth at one time. You can see the short hearth width boards, joint running out to here and over and back, like that. And an old hearth inside, the remains of an ancient hearth, and it's settled up and down, back and forth. Looks like a couple of burnt through places over here, or maybe those are holes from the mice trying to get up to the warmth. Anyway, very odd mantelpiece. I have to say I've never seen that one before. And a new wall in this room, making a closet and a closet. And I know that it's a new wall because it's a different thickness. And there's a window on the back wall. Very cool. All right. There's a nice shake to it. Ceiling in this room is not in quite so good a condition. In terms of plaster, it's fine. But in terms of paint, there's some paint failure. Going to be some dealing with that. This floor in here is just, nothing says dining room like narrow boards. Back in the day, kitchens would have wide boards and dining rooms would have narrow boards because, let's face it, in the wintertime, narrow boards don't shrink up so much. So making smaller boards for the better rooms was a very good thing. But you notice also, as I frequently say, boards are nailed just on the edges. These boards were all laid with the heart part of the board up, so that when they crown up. And when you walk across them, you don't scut the edges off. And when you nail them, you only have to hold the edges down. Pretty cool. All right. Well, we could go up into the attic, but it won't be live. It's just beaverboard. The attic was, seems like it was done in the 20s. And it's just, plain. But this is pretty exciting. Some stuff to discover. What that boarding room looked like back in the day. What the fireplace looked like back in the day. That wainscoting in the dining room. Have to do a little bit of demolition work. Maybe we'll figure some of this stuff out. Anyway, out to the kitchen. Maybe we'll make some tea before we go. Be great. Thanks for coming. We'll see you later.